On the podcast with me today, Danick Dupelle. Now, hardcore country fans will recognize him as the lead guitarist for Emerson Drive, one of the biggest bands to ever come out of Canada over the years. And he's been with Emerson Drive since before they were Emerson Drive. But the other thing that you might not know about Danick Dupelle is how involved he is in some of your favorite hit songs over the years, including the #1 single from Tebe, Denim on Denim, which he was a co-writer on. He produced it. He's also had a lot of success with Tyler Joe Miller, 2 #1 records, success with Corey Marks, Matt Lang, and many other artists. Danick, pleasure to have you on the podcast, buddy. Thanks for being on.
Oh, thanks for having me, Jim. It's awesome. Looking forward to it.
So I think one of the most interesting things about you is the plurality of and all the dynamics you have in terms of your capability. Like I said, a lot of people might know you as a musician. That might be the only context they have. But something must have inspired you at some point in time to pursue your other passions of songwriting, of producing, and it was also a smart move because it forced you to diversify. What was the impetus to get you into businesses other than just being a front man on stage, which in its own right is a full-time job, not during the pandemic, but regularly? What was it that inspired you to move in that direction?
Well, from day one, it was always like when I was a kid, or listening to, playing in bars and stuff, and finally met with Emerson Drive or Farmer's Daughter prior to that and stuff. I was involved like on the third record of Farmer's Daughter, and I got into the studio, and I kind of got the bug of like recording music in the studio world, and when we joined the band, and it was really like, for us, we were really like, we need to be good, and we understand that the business back then, it was like not everybody played on their own records, and they hired a lot of outside musician. But when we did our showcase with DreamWorks when we got signed, James Stroud was really adamant for us to play on the record. So from me being the guitar player and singing a background singer and stuff, and then everybody else, I guess, they did their track. Like Mike played drums on the song, and Brad sang the vocal, and they all left. I'm there still playing guitar parts and another guitar parts, and a third guitar. I was always the one staying around all the time, like later on than everybody else. And I was watching Julian King running his Pro Tools, and I was really interested to learn how to do this and how to do that. Oh my God, you do this by like shortcuts and stuff, and I was really like intrigued by learning it. And of course the band got busy on the road, but when we start like going from 275 shows a year down to maybe half of that, it gave me a lot more time in town and hanging out with my really good friend David Kalamusky, and he really showed me the way of to become a producer and engineer, and doing everything myself, like not hiring outside guys to do demos. And so I learned how to play bass and play keys and sing harmonies, like for all my own stuff, and that brought me into writing songs also. And so that's, and more we start playing less with the band, and and that was a good thing when we played so much. So it gave me more time in town, more time to write, more time to do demos, more time. And after that, like, that's when I got to get in touch with Tebe and start writing with him and start recording. And he asked me to produce his second record. And after that, that's it. I was in love with being in the studio.
You guys have created some magic together for sure. And I think it's such an important point that you talk about how important it was for you to really hone your craft first and foremost as a musician, but then to decide to diversify outside of that. And then the strength that gives you as an individual, where you're not entirely reliant on touring, because popularity ebbs and flows in this businesses, right? Like, and all businesses, but especially this one, where you might be playing, like you said, 275 shows a year, and now you're down to 100, maybe you're down to 50. Like, now you have the ability, and it'll speak to my next question. COVID has crippled the touring business. but you've
And
been busier than ever because of the fact that you've been developing these other skills for years.
yeah, I'm lucky, but again, like it's kind of felt we were had all these shows booked for last year, and we started like one by one, was just like getting canceled. Okay, not gonna happen. But in the meantime, my winter like is always busy because we don't really play in the winter time for with the band. It's mainly summer stuff. So I always like keep myself busy, and the phone's ringing, and hey, can you do three sides for me and produce this and produce that? And so I was kind of busy. And after that, now everybody was like in town and not going anywhere. Let's use that time to write songs. Let's use to and got some calls and hey, you want to produce this track? I need to put something out on radio, and that got me so busy. Like I delivered my last mix of 2020 on Christmas Eve. That's when I got. That's okay. I'm off tomorrow. It's Christmas, and so that's so important. Like you said, like playing. When you think about being on the road all the time, that's the only thing you live for, and it's that's great. Love playing shows and love playing live. But this is when the kind of like the not the alarm went off for me, and we started like slowing down, and voluntarily we want to slow down. It kind of like, oh, okay, what can I do? What else can I do? Like uh I'm
You still
like
got to
any
fill up your
you got
day.
yeah, I
You know,
gotta fill my
you've
day.
got lots of ambition.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, well, I got this little studio at the house, and got like I said earlier, like got involved with Kalmusky, and he brought me in, and with County Q back here in Nashville in Bear Hill, Paul gave me a room to bring all my stuff in and to be able to work in that room. And eventually, like 5 years ago, Emerson Drive, we bought a building in Bear Hill and built like gut it and built from scratch like a mixed room that I'm in right now, a mixed room and a nice with an ISO booth and a lounge. And man, this has become my life. I'm in here 7 days a week, and people says, "Well, you need to take time off." I'm like, I don't know. I kind of love doing this. Like,
Why do you
uh,
need to take time off from something you enjoy, right? And
like to
you
me,
do
it's not
love
like,
it.
yeah, it's not even work. But like some people said, "Oh man, you're so lucky to be able to do this." But you know what? I gotta say, you gotta create your luck. You gotta create your own luck. You gotta work hard. I didn't get to do this overnight. I started like 15 years ago, and it takes that much time to get to where you want to be eventually. And knock on wood, it's been a really good year last year with a lot of success with radio and artists, and from Tyler Joe Miller, Tebe, Emerson Drive, and Don Amaro and Matt Lang. And so yeah, and that's you it I always say, like, every time you're scared of something, you're kind of like, oh, I'm freaking out of like I don't know if I'm gonna be able to. What's next? That's when you kick yourself in the ass and like, oh, I got to do something. Because when you're comfortable, to me, I think you're going backwards. You're on pause. Well, you gotta. That's that not fear, but being scared of like what's next makes you want to do better and do more. That's how I see it. I don't know if I'm explaining it right, but
Listen, for everybody listening in right now, this is why every time I'm in Nashville, Danick and I go for a beer. Actually, I drink gin most of the time, and actually these days mostly soda water. But I love listening to you talk. I love your philosophies on life because I think that they're really they're applicable and they're important for people to hear. Um, the interesting thing about Nashville is there's this mystique and allure to it because it's the mecca and the epicenter of country music, and that's of course where you're um, where you are broadcasting from today for this podcast.
mm,
But interestingly enough, you work primarily with Canadian artists out of Nashville, out of Vibe Recording Studio there in Nashville. Why do you think it is that Canadians feel like they need to go to Nashville to do their best in terms of songwriting and recording? Why is that?
um, I don't think there's any. First of all, I don't think there's anything wrong with Canada, and I'm not trying to put people in Canada doing stuff. They're doing great music, great producers out there. Uh, for me, this is where I was pretty much like raised into the recording world. I kind of bypassed Canada in a way and came down to Nashville. I've been here for 20 years. So this is what I know. And there's something to be said about writing every day and recording every day. And there's nothing like it. Like it's like my favorite day of the week is Monday. My worst day of the week, Sunday. I hate Sunday. It's boring as hell, but I still come to the studio. But Berry Hill, the little neighborhood I'm in, is empty. Nobody's doing anything. Monday, full of cars and at every studio's in town. I'm like, everybody's creating music. There's an energy. I don't know what to say about it. I think you can only get here. And
And you also have access to musicians and you know,
musician
as it pertains to
anytime. Yeah.
songwriting, uh, there's an epicenter of people there that you can get together face to face,
Yeah,
you
right
know,
away.
all the time. Yeah,
All the time.
I can understand that.
And like there's a lot of stuff. And now with technology, I mean, I man, I know what we all have to face, the fact that we have to create with CanCon stuff. And like I did so much like during the summer, a couple summer ago, to record on the bus music, and did all the CanCon track, perform in Canada, that kind of stuff, to be and it's like, thank God to that. Now, I mean, we but this I mix here, I master here, I edit here. I'm like, I do all my stuff is here. It's pretty much, and I have a lot of Canadians musicians too that we're all close here, from Mark Rogers, Karen Kozowski's husband, and David, and and there's Mike, our drummer. Mike plays all the drums on my stuff that I do. And so, a matter of fact, he's coming later. I'm gonna see Mike. I haven't seen him in a
Oh,
while. So,
say hi to
like,
them.
I will for sure. But yeah, is there's an energy in this town, and there's it makes you want to be better, because like across the street, you got one of the top producer in the world that's working at Blackbird, and I mean he's right down the street from me, and it's anybody of comes to Nashville to record music. It's Music City. And like you said, like there's I have access to all the best all the time, every day. I need
Right.
something to be done. Call so and so, from Dave Cohen to whoever. Uh, he's yeah, sure, I can be there at 6, right? So it's like, it's amazing. It's that's what I love about this town, and it's becoming home after 20 years. So
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure you've got roots there. Yeah, Nashville sort of reminds me, to use an analogy, of like Philadelphia is to the boxing game. You know, like it's not an accident that Rocky Balboa in that original movie is set in Philadelphia, because Philly was known as a fight town.
yeah,
Emmanuel Stewart, the Kronk Gym.
yep,
Fighters used to say that if you were fighting someone from the Philadelphia zip code, you just knew you had to step it up a few notches, because there was such a culture embedded within that city. And
yep,
Nashville has that as it pertains to country music and music in general. And what I am noticing, and I'm curious to hear if you've experienced this as well, is it's no longer just country music in Nashville. You're starting to see a real exodus from LA, Atlanta to a degree, and New York. A lot of music professionals from rock, hip hop, pop also
yeah.
relocating to Nashville. Why do you think that is?
Well, like I said, I was never really into the music scene in LA or New York. Like I said, Nashville is what I know. But first of all, I mean, it's the mega center for songwriters. If you think about it, everybody wants to be here. It's a small town, small family, small community. Like it's easy access to, you're not stuck in traffic all the time. Um,
It's a great
the
city.
the price of living is a lot cheaper than LA and New York. And also you have the best studios in the world here in this town. So I have a feeling that has to do a lot to do with it. And you're right. I mean, it's not country music; it's Music City. It's pop to R&B to jazz to like blues to everybody comes here. It's the place to be.
Yeah, it's it's for anybody who hasn't been to Nashville, you got to go and experience it. I remember the first time I got there, I was staying in the Hilton downtown, and it was a Tuesday night. I got in at 11 o'clock, and I decided I wanted to go for a little walk. And I ended up walking down Broadway, and I couldn't believe the lineups outside the clubs on a Tuesday night, and live music at every doorstop. It was unlike anything I'd ever seen outside of Vegas to a degree, which is another city that never sleeps.
Yeah.
But just the feel of Nashville was so warm, so welcoming, so ingratiating, and it's definitely. I understand why you ended up there. I mean, I totally get it, and you do fit there very well. But you grew up in Quebec. You know,
Yep.
people probably tell by your accent, French Canadian background. What got you into country music? It's not like it's not. I mean,
Yes.
Quebec has its own country scene,
Yeah,
but
it does.
what is it that inspired you to go that route?
That I was my parents had a band when I was born, and they my dad played electric guitar, acoustic, whatever, and sang like all the Buck Owens, Merle Haggard stuff. My mom sang all pretty much like French country western music, and they had a band, and they when I was born, they used to bring me to all the gigs. I used to be in the crib backstage and whatever, and warm up the milk in the old twin reverb, whatever, right? And I grew up with the music all my life, and that's why when I was playing drums, I think I was like 6, 7 years old. Tried to, and turning into playing guitar I was 9, 10 years old. That's when my dad showed me a couple guitar chords and stuff, and I went on with Ricky Skaggs and Merle Haggard again, Buck Owens, and I learned so, and I knew that's what I wanted to do. And
Where were you exposed to that music? Were there radio stations in Quebec playing
not
that music
really.
at the time, or were your parents just getting the records?
Yeah, my dad was, I think they were getting. My dad used to get records, and when they used to come out back in the days, and he grew up listening to Johnny Cash and all that, all the legends, and that's what he listened to. It. I'm telling you, my parents love music more than I do, and I love music, and they like just. I know we're gonna jump into something else, but my just right now because of the pandemic, nobody can go out. My dad said, "Kind of boring today," but I hooked him up with the station in TV. So the old station in down in Nashville, and they can watch like live shows over there, and like he's just loving it and just watching that all day, like all day, all the time. They love
I
music.
love it. So he's
So,
watching from his iPad. He's watching
oh
live
yeah, they
live
put it
shows in
on the
Nashville.
TV, and they're both are sitting in the living room and watching like live shows, and we have some live shows happening here a little bit. But yeah, it's just that's how I got exposed, and for them being in the band, so there was always music. They had rehearsal at the house. I remember my mom used to put me to sleep, and they kept rehearsing all night. And as soon as the music stopped, I woke up. Just like I don't know, I was just like surrounded by it, and and after that, I just started getting on my own and playing bars in Quebec and Ontario at 16, 17, 18, underage, just paying your dues, I guess.
Did you sneak into those bars, or did you get an exemption?
A guy sneaked into it. Yeah. And
A
some of
little bit
the
of both, yeah.
oh, yeah, a little bit of both. Yeah. Like my parents, they played a bar. I think they played there for 2 years every weekend. It was in our hometown, and she knew the owner really well. So she used to, not every weekend, but she used to bring me. So, hey, my son's gonna come in. He's gonna play a couple songs tonight, so he's got to stay all night. And so I used to show up, and my guitar was like 11 years old, and got on stage with them, play a couple songs, and sat with my grandparents like in the crowd and watched them play all night. And just I was raised in a smoky bar. So
Amazing. That's what led you to a career with Emerson Drive.
yeah,
Full disclosure, I've worked with you guys as an agent for over a decade. I've always been such an admirer of how you guys have continued to adapt your sound over the years to remain relevant without bastardizing the core of the band and what made you great in terms of art. And I think that's a real challenge for artists who have been around for 2 decades, right? Like, how do you continue to refine your sound so that radio will play you, but not give up the identity that you established in the very beginning? How
Mm.
difficult has that been for you?
Um, I don't think it's not. I don't think the word is difficult. I think it's just challenging. Is just and it's
That's a better word. I like that word better.
and I think it's just about being relevant production wise in songs. It's all about songs and production, really, if you think about it. And I think sometimes when people are having issues, when they've been on the radio for a long time, they get kind of this, well, it's hard to get played anymore, And I have a feeling that sometimes you just step outside of your comfort zone and you gotta, okay, how can we refresh our sound by still staying Emerson Drive? And this is always the way we go in the studio when we start recording music. We gotta keep staying fresh and relevant and be able to compete with everybody else. And that has to do with songs and also with production. The rest, Brad sings great. He's got that voice, and that's Emerson Drive. That identity. It's really important, and the rest is all to yeah, the relevant of being relevant with production and songs. That's there's no other way about it, because
Yeah, that
you gotta stay relevant, because if not, you're not gonna get played. And understanding that there's a lot of new actor coming out, and you 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 need to have a spot, and the spots are small, and there's not a lot of them. And it's well, hey, it makes us challenging for us, and try to think outside the box a little bit and try new stuff, and we're having more fun than ever right now, because we're just like, there's no boundary for us. We just love doing what we're doing right now.
Yeah,
It's
you've
exciting.
definitely had a propensity and a hunger to continue to evolve, and you haven't been swept up in what I see as a pattern among artists who say were big a decade ago or more than that, where they get bitter and they haven't challenged themselves to try to adapt their sound. They just sort of go, well, radio's given up on me, or the industry's given up on me, and they get bitter and angry. But at the end of the day, they're not winning because they're not getting their new music in front of fans, and they're not getting any exposure on radio, and it starts to affect their touring and everything else. What I admire about you guys is you've never had that uh, bitterness, and sort of like that egoic pride that goes along with it, to go, yeah, you know what, we can be true to who we are as a band, but we can also get in the studio and try some stuff and experiment
Yeah,
with some new songs. And in the example of Just Got Paid, that's a song that just translated, it just clicked, and it became a hit almost 2 decades to the time that you had your first hit.
yeah, yeah.
And there's not many bands who have that level of longevity. So that's very admirable that you guys have been able to really like
Oh,
challenge yourselves to evolve.
yeah. Well, thank you. And that's the thing. That was the when we did. I remember doing that song, and it was so fresh for us, but we still had our sound. That's the thing,
Yes.
is that there's an internal sound that Emerson Drive has, and we can't touch that. And I think that has to do with all of us individually. I think we've,
It's the
me playing
musicianship,
guitar,
but
Mike
also
playing drums,
Brad.
and Dale and Brad
Yes.
singing, and the harmonies. That's not going anywhere, but we can do a lot
Brad's
of stuff
voice is
around it.
so distinctive.
Yeah.
Yeah, his voice is incredibly distinctive. And then if you parlay that into, like you just mentioned, the harmonies and your musicianship, there's definitely a proprietary Emerson Drive sound. But somehow you guys have bucked the trend of, being one of those bands that sort of has 5 years of radio relevance. 5 to 7 years is sort of the average from what I've
Hmm.
observed.
Yep.
The fact that you guys have more than doubled that is pretty incredible. So it's been
Yeah.
great to see. Now,
And we
you've
still like
had,
each other. That's not bad.
yeah,
We still
yeah.
like
Well, I
each
do
other.
want to talk about that too, because I think your corporate culture, if you want to call it that, as a band, is something that's really um, as unique as the rest of the aspects of what you do that sets you guys apart. How is it that you guys have maintained that so effectively over the years? I mean, there's got to be times where there's disagreements. There's got to be
Of
times where
course.
there's conflict. How do you resolve that and and uh, and stick it out through all of these years in a business where a lot of bands aren't able to pull that together, even massive bands. I mean, even the Beatles broke up at one
Hmm.
point.
Yeah.
They had every reason to stick together, but you guys have been able to just manage that somehow. And tell us a little bit about that process, because that can't be easy.
Huh, no, it's not. And trust me, I like I said, we went through some ups and down. Definitely. I mean, it's normal. But I there's only one word that will probably well, there's one word. It's called respect. And respect. We everybody respect each other in the band, and we all care about each other, and we all know there's no ego. Also, we don't have egos between us. We just like it amicable all the time. It's easy. It's easy where we to do stuff together. We don't. And if somebody doesn't feel too good, we know we're gonna start picking on him that day, or right. We're just gonna let him be for a few hours or a day, and the next day we'll pick it up where we left off. But it's all about respect. To me, it's we really respect each other for to be able to be 20 years together. I mean, there's no other way that you can do that. And the ego thing, nobody's got an ego. We all, I don't know, I think we're all kind of like four guys are down to earth and easy to get along with. It's simple, but it's not simple. It's hard to do. It all depends. It all depends where everybody wants to be in the future, and if you can respect the decisions on what they want to do, you'll go a long way. Yeah, definitely.
I
It's
think
hard to
too.
explain. It's because, like there's like I said, like like how many times can I say that man, we lost our first record deal. How many bands would have quit? I could tell you handful. Oh, well, why should we try again? Well, we just thought about it and didn't make any abrupt decision yet. We got together, pulled together, and we got another record deal. We got number one song. We lost our bass player to suicide. That was the hardest thing that we ever been through as a band. But you know what? Like we had a roller coaster, went down. A number one song, lost Patrick, came back up with a Grammy nomination, and that kept us going, and got us closer together. Uh, and that's all these little like kind of like um, things that happened to us in the band. We were always able to pull through, and that was about being close and being respecting each other. I think that's
You guys
the
have always really worked together well as a unit as well. I know that Brad and yourself, sort of in some respects being the nucleus of the band, but you've never looked at it that way. Like the entire band is all encompassing, and Brad has been very forthcoming about making sure that when he does interviews, for the most part, especially if you guys are all together, that you're all there present
yeah.
for the radio interview, right?
Hmm.
And and I think a lot of times when I see bands break apart, it's because the lead singer sort of might get a separate manager, and then that manager
Yeah.
gets in his ear about doing a solo record, and then
Yeah.
there's these other projects that other music or other members of the band get involved with, and sometimes they all offshoot to other places, and then all of a sudden there's fissures and cracks in this unit that once was the band. And you guys have been really great about exploring other projects outside of Emerson Drive, namely your songwriting and producing, but still maintaining fidelity to the band
Yes. Oh,
as it pertains to performing.
yeah. I will never. The band's gonna. I will never. The band will always gonna be the band for me. It's and if like let's say there's a gig that shows up on the books and I got something else, well, I'm gonna go where the band's going first. That's priority all the time. And that again comes back down to respect and fidelity, like you said, to the band and to everybody in the band. And
Right.
and two, like like why I say that we have the most fun we ever had together now. We don't have that stress that we have to be on the road. Uh, don't have the oh man, we gotta go on the road. We gotta keep playing shows, playing shows, playing shows, and it's not that anymore. There's other things, and we own the studio together. And it's when we were working on an Emerson Drive record, it's just me, Dale, Brad, and Mike, and we're just here by ourselves. There's nobody looking over it. There's not a okay, we got another 2 hours, we got to leave. No, it's our place. We do whatever we want whenever we want, and that makes it a lot more fun. We're trying
Yes.
stuff, and it's
Experiment.
experiment stuff. There was
Yeah.
a great documentary a long time ago I seen from Aerosmith. They were stuck in a house for I think a few 4 months making a record, and I always wanted like it'd be so cool to be able to do that, right? But we weren't able to do that financially back then. And now we own a studio. We do it differently now, but it's still the same kind of idea. We get ourselves into this house here, and we're just creating music and trying stuff, and it's fun. Make it so much fun, and it takes the stress of like, uh, you know, like, look, it takes away from like you said earlier, like, oh well, we can't, nothing's working. Like, why can't we get the play it on the radio, whatever. No, we're making music. It's fun. It's just like, let's see if that sticks, right? So,
I think that speaks to your long-term success. A lot of people always say, find a job that you're so passionate about that it doesn't feel like work, and you've done that successfully in a few different realms. The band has had many ups and downs over the years, but some of the highlights: more top 20 hits than any other Canadian country music group in history. Yet a number one in the United States with Moments. You've had a Grammy nomination. You guys won an ACM award. Of all of the things that you guys have had in terms of highlights, what has been the one that's been most special to you?
well, it's hard because you look back and it's always like the next accolade is always amazing to get, right? It's just like the first top five song, "I Should Be Sleeping." We can't even believe it. It came from even first to sign the record deal to having a song on the radio and hearing that song for the first time on the radio. Like those are all things that it's the biggest moment of my life in a way. And after that, oh, you get the top five. And after you get another top five with Falling to Me. And you get CCMAs and we get nominated for an ACM. We win an ACM. It's like they're all amazing. It's uh if I come back to having the number one song, maybe that's a pretty big deal. And to what the song meant, also lyrically, and how many people it touched. Maybe that I could say that Moments was pretty an amazing success for us. And uh, I mean, I remember getting all the emails from fans and letters, fan mail, and man, that song touched so many people, and it still does. And that's hard to do, and it's hard to find a song that's going to do that for in your career for a lot of artists. And I think we're pretty.
Yeah, Moments is one of those songs that it just continues to stand the test of time because it is so it has the ability to be so personal to everybody, depending on their own life experience,
Yep.
right? And it is one of those life-changing tracks, and I'm so grateful that it got the chance to rise to number one because it's one of those songs that deserved it. Another song that you guys wrote, um, uh, "When I See You Again," which
Yeah.
was a tribute to Patrick Bork, who, of
Yep.
course, committed suicide in 2007. For people who aren't familiar with that story,
Hmm.
a member of the band, um, committed suicide, and then you guys came out with this track later, which also really spoke to a lot of people who had experienced loss in their lives.
Hmm.
Back to Patrick and how painful and difficult that must have been for everyone. Were there signs leading up to that situation that gave you guys any indicators that he might go down that road?
No, no, really, I can't say. Like, it's when something like that happens to you closely, it doesn't have to be exactly our story. Everybody's got a story. You always try to look why and understand why it happened, and you come up with maybe that's why that's why he did that, and maybe that's we can't we just the only thing we know is that Patrick got to a point he was overwhelmed by being so busy on the road, and I remember that was like July, first of July, I think we were in Calgary, and you just like couldn't take it. The road is, I mean, you got to understand that 2007 was the hardest year of our lives. Like touring, it was ridiculous. I think we flew 127 times that year. That's
Yeah.
not
You
counting
got no
the
chance at a
layovers.
personal life,
No,
and the thing I remember about Patrick the most were his hugs. He would always
yeah,
give me this big bear hug when I'd see him, and he seemed to be filled with so much joy,
so much joy.
uh, which which and the other thing that's so interesting is that you work so hard as a musician to get to a point where you're in demand to be busy,
Yeah,
right? And then sometimes you reach that threshold of being busy, and it's like it's the blessing that turns into a curse.
yeah,
And I really think that perspective is what really matters. And obviously, Patrick's perspective got askew at some point, right? Because there was a part of him initially that wanted to be busy, that wanted to be on the
of
road. That's
course.
why he became a musician, right?
Yeah,
And he was always so happy and joyous. And I remember him being grateful whenever I'd see him at a gig. He's like,
yeah.
"Oh, I'm so excited that we're all playing." But then you hear the other side of it, and then you must, it must be so painful for you guys to know that he
Yeah.
must have struggled with that a little bit publicly, but a lot privately as well.
I think a lot of privately happened, and there was a couple weeks before that we start getting a call, and we start feeling there was something kind of
The
dark
heaviness.
heaviness. We were on the road. I remember getting a call where I think we played. We were in Ohio somewhere. Couldn't remember where, but and we were like, "Hey, man, like, don't if you need to talk, call anytime. Like, wake me up. Doesn't matter. Call anytime." Could see like little being concerned a little bit, but never to that point. We never thought, and sadly, it happened, and it was I remember it was September 26th, the day before his birthday, and I said, the hardest day of my life, really. And I think everybody else in the band was we never experienced anything like it. I don't wish that on anybody. And we just went through that. Is it Bell Talks? That just happened a couple of days ago for mental health issues. Bell, let's talk. Bell
Yes.
Talk.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's talk Bell.
let's talk.
Yes.
Bell.
Yes.
Um, anyway, uh, it's like to be able to talk to somebody, and I really hope that if anybody goes through that, be able to listen, and it doesn't take much. A lot of people don't have that ability to, or don't have the people they can talk to, and that's sad. And wish that we had like probably an extra day. Maybe we could have been able to do something. But you know what? Like that's what I'm saying is that you think about it and you look back and say, what could have I done? Is there something I could have done? Uh, you can't think that way. It happened, but you can definitely try to help somebody else. So that's it.
Right. And yourself. I mean, I'm sure that the shock of that situation and of his suicide probably made you more vigilant and pay more attention to your own mental health.
Oh, definitely. And lucky for me, my friends are like my best friends, so I talk to my parents all the time. So there's nothing I there's they know everything, and they're probably the best people to lift me up, because it's not easy. It's not always easy. It's like there's some ups and downs on anything. But man, that keeps me going. I have somebody to talk to. A lot of people don't, and it's very
Right.
important. So, uh,
Loneliness and isolation is at the root of a lot of depression, right?
oh
And
yeah,
And the sad thing is, as people become more depressed, they often become more introverted. And
Mhm.
so, it's sort of like it just drops off a cliff for them sometimes. And you're a happy-go-lucky guy by nature. You were raised right. You found
Yeah.
your passion in life, but you've also had difficult times too. We were talking before the call. You haven't seen your parents in the flesh in what,
Yeah.
a year
Been
now, right?
a
With
year.
the
Yeah.
pandemic,
Yeah. The last it's
so
been a
crazy.
it's crazy.
But they're back home
Yeah.
in Quebec, right?
Yeah, they're in Quebec, yeah, just outside of Montreal, in the suburbs. So as soon as that opens up, I'm gonna try to make it up there and see my grandfather still alive and he's 94 and lucky me, I have a grandfather that's still here for I'm 47. I mean, I'm God lucky that he's still around and my mom's dad. So uh 94, you want to make sure you try to see them as much as you can. So I can't wait for that to happen. So we'll see. I take it one day at a time. So there's nothing
Yeah.
else I can do, right?
We're all hoping the world opens up. Now, you actually had
Yeah,
an experience firsthand with COVID last fall.
yeah, I did. Lucky, it was very mild. So um, try to understand how I got it. I don't know. You try to be careful as much as you can, and like but like I said, like there's a lot of people haven't been that lucky, and I'm kind of grateful that it was easy on my end, and so we just got to be careful and get through this and turn the page and move on and go play some live shows. I hope.
Yeah,
I have a feeling that I think the live shows when everything kicks back in, it's going to be busy. A lot of people will
it
be hungry to
is.
see live shows. So
I
um,
think we're on the edge of a golden age in the live entertainment business. I really do believe that there's going to be a massive demand. So long as there's safety protocols in place to make people feel
yeah,
safe, because I think people are, justifiably and righteously afraid, right?
mm,
I mean, you and I we've talked about this a little bit off air, but I really believe that we need to figure out how we are going to live with COVID-19 and the coronavirus, how we're going to live alongside it while it exists in the form that it's in, because lockdown after lockdown just doesn't seem like it's going to work like a permanent. It's not going to work as a permanent solution, especially for our
no,
industry.
definitely,
So we're hoping that between herd immunity, the vaccine, possibly rapid response testing, maybe mandatory masks at concerts, whatever the protocols
yeah,
have to be to put in place, we can get our business back on track. And, as I keep saying, whenever I have a chance to speak to a health professional, we are rule followers. We follow rules to be in the entertainment business.
yeah,
There's no other way around it. You give us the rules, we will follow them,
yeah,
and hopefully we can find a way to coexist with this, because like you said, I mean, it's a contagious disease, right?
yeah. It
Like
is. Yeah.
it's a virus that you don't have to be careless and irresponsible to necessarily contract it.
Mhm.
And
We just
and
don't know who's gonna get sick and die from it. That's the thing. That's what's kinda
right,
why me? Why was I fine? I don't know. Why so and so had a lot of issue, was hospitalized. We just don't know. And
right.
it's just know who's gonna get hit hard with it. And that's what's scary. That's like I said, like lucky that was mine on my end. So
No,
but
I'm glad you're still with us, brother.
oh, I'm glad to be here.
So what are you working on that you're excited about next? What have you got in the
um
can that you're like thrilled and excited about?
Well, I always say that. I always say the last project I do has to be the best I've done. So that's how I keep going, right? So I just delivered a track to MDM yesterday for a new Don Amaro song. So I'm really excited about that one. I think Don did an amazing vocal on that, and so we're pretty excited to release it. Don't can't say too much about it right now, but I just got finished with it. So and got some Tebe single. There's one of us single that got put on Wild Country. That's on his record that me Tebe and Jimmy wrote. And so it's called "See You Around." And Tebe's got also a single on radio, "Shotgun Rider." that's on
Yeah.
right now, and that seems to be just started. I think it's doing all right. And Matt Lang, and all those. It's like that circle, right? We just finished a record. We're almost starting to work on the next one right away. So that road, that
And what
wheel
about
keeps.
New Emerson Drive?
Yes, there's 3 songs, and I just need to get Brad here. So I need to
Yes.
go, or I need to go up there. Or either way, I gotta get a vocal. But no, but Brad, where we've been talking, we're supposed to get together probably at the end of this month, or if it's not early next month. And we got 3 songs that we're ready to record. And I'm excited about those. It's some good, it's fresh, and it's exciting. And yeah, I think you guys will be happy with them when we get done with it. So that's
Well,
what's
let's
happening.
hope
And
let's hope the travel bans get lifted so that you can get him in studio and
yeah,
get those tracks laid down, because I know radio is hungry for some New Emerson Drive.
yeah, we and we're hungry. We need to get something out. It's been a while. And so yeah, that's exciting. I'm trying to think what else is uh man, there's so many. It's been busy. It's hard to remember, but those are the Tyler Joe Miller. I just got finished that in October. So he's got a single out, Fighting, that's out right now. And so there's a lot of good stuff happening. So I'm excited, and I'm
Very
still
cool.
writing. I just kept writing. I was writing with Teve yesterday, writing again on Thursday, and doing those demos. And there's always something to do. If I have nothing to do, there's a list I gotta do. There's a back burner list. It's in the corner over there on my wall.
That is that might be the secret to not only maintaining great mental health, but also maintaining your passion, is staying busy, staying immersed,
Yeah,
staying involved. Like, I'm a big fan of find things that you enjoy to fill up your day, because at the end of your life, that's all it comes down to, is a bunch of moments that make up a day and a bunch
yeah,
of days that make up a life.
yeah.
And
You're totally right.
you can have a pretty damn good life if you just focus on filling up those moments.
Yeah, when you're down, you go buy gear. So that's my.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Reinvesting.
Yeah,
That
reinvesting.
must be like you must be like a kid in the candy store when you go buy gear for your
Oh,
studio.
I just like it's been like not the rabbit hole lately, but in a good way. I've been revamping the studio a little bit and a lot of good stuff. So everything seemed to be sounding better. Hopefully, it's in my head, but I think it sounds better. Yeah, I just revamped the studio, and there's always something to put back in the studio that you want to take you to the next level. I think I said that earlier. As soon as you're comfortable, it's not good. You got to push yourself. You got to stay fresh. You got to listen, learn new tricks, learn new stuff. How new ways of using new plugins to new gear, that you don't get stale, and you just keep yourself like always like on like not busy, but always like, oh, what can I do? What can I change? What can I need to keep pushing myself, because if not, somebody else will come in and steal your spot. That's just the way it is. So
Yeah,
I
there's
keep.
something to be said for maintaining a competitive edge and staying on the very edge of your competence so that you can continue to push that forward, right? And
Yes,
and I think you're right. Like, if you became comfortable with what was acceptable on radio in, say, 2008, by now your sound would be outdated,
exactly.
right?
That's
So
why
you
we
have to keep pushing that forward.
totally, like, we just wrote yesterday, and I got to do that demo, and we're thinking right now, what I wrote yesterday, if ever gets cut, it's gonna come out in 2 years from now. So you got to think about that. So what's going to be what's in 2 years? Well, of course you're not going to like change, reinvent the wheel, but you just still got to stay fresh, and something that you haven't tried before, something new that you haven't heard in a long time, or something. Just change it a little bit and keep pushing yourself and think outside the box a little bit. So
I love it, man. You've given people so much to think about today. You've shared a lot of wisdom. Congratulations on
oh,
all
thank
your
you.
success with
Thanks, Jim.
Emerson Drive, and all your success in the studio, man. Like, I'm so proud of what you've
Oh,
been able
thank you
to
so much.
accomplish, and all the diversification. And you're a force, brother.
Oh,
Great
try.
to work with you.
Well, thank you. Hey, likewise. Love it. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, thanks for taking the time today.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me, and I'm sure we'll hopefully we can see each other sometime soon.
I'm hoping for that. From your mouth to God's ears, my friend.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, take care.